We're playing a sort of variation on What's My Line. We want you to keep your Enneagram style secret. A lot of times people come to Enneagram workshops, and one of the first things they want to do is confess their Enneagram style, like it's AA, you know. But in this case, if you could, you know, thank you for not sharing. If you could keep it to yourself. And then we just want to ask a couple of questions. One is, how do you decide where to go on vacation? And the other is, how do you grow and change? And you take them in any order you're comfortable.
For me to decide where to go on vacation, it would be I'd have to go through a cost-benefit analysis. What do I want to get out of vacation, and what am I reasonably willing to expend for that?
Uh-huh. Okay.
For me, that's kind of a tough, you know, when I've decided to go on vacation, you asked that before, I said, and I thought, I'm not sure I can give you a real specific answer. Usually it's something that we would talk about, my wife and I would talk about where we wanted to go, and just decide to go.
So it was more spontaneous, or not much deliberation?
I would say it's more, a little bit probably spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
We don't plan a long time ahead that we're going to go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
We would say, let's do this and do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you just make it up. Mm-hmm.
I live out of state, and my husband lives out of state from his family, and all of our vacations were planned on which family we needed to see, and sometimes we would see both, and it would be thousands of miles to each of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only in the last year or two changed, and now it's, well, you go there and I'll go here, and then we'll take another shorter vacation and we'll both do something, and it's a lot of compromise.
A lot of compromise that's been arrived at over time through experience. Mm-hmm.
Because we have different families and we have different desires of what we want on vacation.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Anybody else in terms of how do you grow and change? Just
Well, you wait until you get your back against the wall and you are faced with the choice: do I want to live or die? And then be willing to look at some alternatives.
Okay.
I think for me to grow and change, I have to, a little bit of it's back against the wall, but I have to actively work at it. It's not something that just naturally happens. I have to take an active role in doing and acting to get something accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
I grow and change very secretly. I don't tell other people what I'm trying to do. I figure it out for myself. Maybe reading, maybe observing, and see what works.
And see what works.
Trial and error.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, now there are different what they call in NLP motivation strategies that people have that come into play also when you decide on something like going on vacation or actually growing and changing. And sometimes in NLP workshops there will be an exercise where people get together and they try to figure out what motivates them actually to get out of bed in the morning. Now, this is so unconscious that none of us really think about it very much. But actually, one thing will impel one person to get out of bed in the morning, but not another. In other words, a 9, for instance, might say, well, I just, I lay there and I try to stall it out and I keep hitting the snooze alarm and I just stay in bed for as long as I can, but then the longer I stay in bed, the more things kind of build up in my mind. The more I start to think about everything I've got to do that day and various kinds of things I have to do that week and that month, and then I start thinking about existential dilemmas, and I think, I just want to put this off, but then I imagine if I just put it off more, it'll just get worse, and finally I just give up and say, oh, to hell with it, and I get up. Somebody else, like an 8, might say, Well, I lie there and I just really enjoy kind of the being between the sheets and kind of to enjoy that in-between state, between waking up and being asleep and kind of going back and forth. And then suddenly I see an image of my father back in England, where I grew up, and I remember his words, the thing he used to say to me more than anything else, that you're so lazy you'll never amount to anything. And then I think, that son of a bitch, and I'm suddenly out of bed and on my way to work. Now, that's a totally different motivation strategy than the other one. Some people motivate themselves negatively, like thinking about negative consequence, like the worst that can happen, a phobic six might try to lay in bed and think, well, I'm just going to lie here a little while longer, but, what if that means that I don't want to go to work at all? And I don't go to work, and then suddenly, let's say I call in sick, and then I do have 45 sick days because I never take any sick days. But if I call in sick, let's say, for instance, today, because of that project that we're all working on that particularly pisses off the boss, and if the boss gets really angry, then maybe I'll wind up getting fired. If I wind up getting fired, what will I do? How will I survive? I could be out on the street selling pencils. I better get up and go to work. Somebody else could say, well, I'd like to. A 7 could say, I wonder what would happen if, after I got up, I put on that new CD and I tried that new coffee that my friend gave me, and maybe altered my routine a little bit, this morning before I go off to work. And then at a certain point, subjective kind of exit point, the person feels sort of compelled to get up. These are really different ways of getting out of bed. But they do reflect different sorts of strategies that people have. Some people are getting out of bed because of a negative possibility, so they're kind of going away from something bad that could happen, let's say. Some people are getting out of bed as a consequence of going towards a positive possibility, looking forward to something they're excited about, something they want to do, and that gets them out of bed. And some people are doing a sort of combination of the two, like partially there's a negative possibility, and to get away from that negative possibility, they look for a positive possibility. But they're all really different strategies for getting out of bed. Now, in terms of strategies for going on vacation, I heard a few things in terms of what we were talking about. One thing that you were talking about was reaching a kind of compromise after, I would imagine, having exerted quite a bit of effort, you and your husband, over the years to go and visit his relatives and also to go and visit your relatives in a way that was a strain somehow, or saturated you somehow, or somehow what led to you never having a sense of your own vacation, let's say, or having enough time for yourself, or having enough time away with your husband, let's say, where you were off in the Caribbean or something rather than dutifully visiting relatives. And so sometimes it matters. For instance, you were talking about cost effectiveness, but you didn't say anything about other people, in terms of a first reaction. And so the criteria, is different for each person.